Welcome to the Old Fashion Masonic Podcast, where we talk all things Masonry while drinking an old fashioned. I'm Brian.
I'm Chris.
And I'm happy to be here.
And that's Alex Rosell that you saw on a previous episode along with Chris. So, have you ever thought about if there were a Masonic, speculative, Masonic Mount Rushmore, who would the four people be on it? If your answer is yes, stay along with me. If your answer is no, stay along with me. So here's where we're at. We're going to kind of debate. This isn't going to be a long debate. We're going to debate who we think the four speculative Freemasons should be. I think two of them are going to be a no-brainer, but the other two will be interesting. So let's go. Somebody's going to throw in some BS and try to be controversial, and I know that person is to my right. So as we digress, so here's the thing. If we all agree on that person, then that person's going to take a spot, okay? And then we'll just kind of move on, right? So here we go. It doesn't have to be the number one spot. My number one is George Washington. Not only is he a founding father and our first president, but he's well known. He's a great ambassador and a great ambassador of Freemasonry. Would you disagree that he should be on the speculative Mount Rushmore?
No.
For Masonry?
It's a good pick.
No? Okay.
I would not disagree.
So we have number one taken care of. That was easier than I thought. So I think number two is going to be there. Now it's going to get feisty after that. But George Washington, no doubt, he's probably in the number one spot. Number two, I'm going to put Ben Franklin. Not only was he a founding father, he was a Grand Master of Pennsylvania, well-known great ambassador and a great ambassador of Freemasonry, and he's also on currency. Would you disagree with Franklin?
So he did a lot to help us win the war.
So you're not sold yet?
He's not the best looking guy we have.
Well, you know, he is not the best looking guy, but that did not stop him.
It did not.
It did not.
So my question is,
group.
would you put him on the Mount Rushmore of speculative Masons?
So I'm going to take a different approach. When I look at the founding fathers, each of them is, in my opinion, is equally as
And those who are
deserving.
staying tuned, July 2nd, Dave Thomas, we're going to talk about the Masons that signed the Declaration of Independence and some of the ones you didn't know about. So keep going.
Yeah, sure. So the founding fathers, I feel like that's their almost their own lodge of influential Masons, especially in the United States.
Okay.
So I would put Franklin, Jefferson, Hancock, Revere with Washington, and they all hold an equal spot in my.
So Washington's still there for you.
Washington's still there, but I feel like if there was the possibility of doing like a multi-headed single person on
Like
Mount
a
Rushmore.
Siamese Mason?
Yeah, like a
Mount
Siamese
Rushmore on a Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're not sold on Ben Franklin, either one of you.
I
am.
He checks
You're
the
not
boxes.
there. He checks boxes, but you're not there yet.
I
Can I take the number two spot or not? Let's put him as a maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll put him in.
Okay. I'm throwing mine up, and then you guys are going to bring yours, okay? My next one is Prince Hall.
Ooh,
So think about
fantastic.
this. He was an abolitionist.
Fantastic.
He was the founder of Prince Hall Freemasonry, Grand Master of the African Grand Lodge of North America until his death. Instrumental in pushing blacks to join the military. After failed attempts, his efforts were finally rewarded. I think Prince Hall has to be on that somewhere.
I would agree 1,000%.
1,000. So you're not there.
I'm there.
You're there?
I did a
So-
Masonic Ed on him. He's there.
So we've got George Washington and Prince Hall confirmed so far.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't even
disagree.
think about that one before.
I thought you might not,
a
but
good
that's
one.
why you get the old guy in the middle.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to get wild with you. Alexander Fleming. He was more known as a Shriner. He was initiated in Sancta Maria Lodge number 2682, the age of 27. Also a member of Misericordia Lodge number 323286. After World War I, he was studying influenza. He accidentally grew some equipment on his equipment, or grew some germs on his equipment, and later discovered penicillin. So we don't really think of him as a Mason, but let me just here's my argument.
It's hard for me to not make a joke about that. Right.
Right. Well, so Russ isn't on the podcast. Well, is penicillin related? We'll talk about that later, folks. So he's not here to defend himself. So,
But I am.
but he is in the background. That actually screwed me up a lot. So, is the guy who invented penicillin, who's a Mason, is he not good enough to be on the speculative Masonic Mount Rushmore?
So here's my thing. We talk about Prince Hall, we talk about George Washington, we talk about Ben Franklin. These guys were Masons and men. And then there are guys that are men that are also Masons.
Okay.
So what I'm going to say is that, is it cool that he's a Mason? Yeah, it's cool.
Okay.
It's very cool. You know who else is a Mason? Steve Wozniak of Apple.
Okay. He's not on my Mount Rushmore, but I followed your logic.
Hear me out here. Steve Wozniak is only a Mason today because right after he was right after he was raised, he purchased a lifetime membership. He is not active, will not communicate, will not
his thing.
Hasn't done anything in 30 some years, but he is still a Mason. And on the records, 150 years from now, it will show that he was a Mason until death.
That argument's solid. Do you buy that?
What has he done for Masonry?
Bingo.
Fair. Okay. I'm going to go with you on that. I thought I might have had you. Okay. Masonic Mount Rushmore. How about this? Sir Edward Jenner. You're going to give me the same argument, but his discovery of the smallpox vaccination was critical. And I will tell you this: they say it saved more men or more humans than any other invention ever.
Yeah, fascinating.
But you're not sold on that.
I think that Worshipful Collins' question still stands.
Okay, so here's where we're at. We've got George Washington and Prince Hall in the two spots. Collins, throw me somebody. Let's debate some people.
Well, I think we got to talk about Albert Pike.
Let's talk Albert Pike. He was a little wild, a little crazy,
He was,
a little eccentric. So keep going.
So he took the Scottish Rite ritual and he made it relevant again. He found what the secret the Scottish Rite ritual was trying to tell people, and he made it not so boring.
But yet he might have made it not so boring. It's because he made it so damn hard to read.
Well, the rituals. He helped rewrite that.
So let me ask you this question: is he good enough to be number 3 or 4 spot for you?
And look at that beard.
That is a respectable nomination.
It wasn't on mine. I'm not there yet.
Respectable nomination. Certainly a mover and shaker in American Freemasonry. Great man, no doubt. But I can think of a couple of people.
Okay, so we've given you one. You throw one more in the mix. Let's try to get the 3 spot.
Sure.
We got the first 2.
We talked, political Freemasons of old. Let's talk about, political, Freemasons that, Worshipful Russ actually voted for, like President Truman. So the reason I like Brother Truman is that because when he was president of the United States, he also was Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Missouri at the same time. And, when you talk about, both of those roles, obviously, being the leader of the free world in a post-World War II United States is a very busy time. But being the Grand Master of a Grand Lodge also commands a lot of your time as well. So the fact that the man was able to juggle both of those things at the same time and balance being president of the United States.
Is that real, or are you just trying to suck me into this like I tried to suck you in on a previous conversation that you were junior warden when you're really junior deacon?
Well,
So Is that true? He was president and Grand Master at the same time?
Correct, yeah.
Yes.
Wow, that was our voice from afar.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, like, that's what I mean, like, when, what has he done for Freemasonry? The guy put his money where his mouth was.
Okay.
And as the leader of the free world, still thought that it was worth his time to be a leader of men in his home state, barely a state. I think that they're, anyways.
Sorry about that, Missouri. I know you're a follower of us. Okay, so I'm not sold yet, but very good argument. It takes me there. Who's your next one?
Manly P. Hall.
Enlighten me.
So he's got some great books.
Manly, M-A, spell it out so we can throw it across.
Manly
Manly P.
Hall.
Hall. Okay? Across the screen there. Follow along.
So he wrote some books. He still has a school in California where people research what he did. He was alive back in the 90s, so he's...
Can I interrupt and say that no matter where you're going to go, this is going to be trash. You just were up against Truman.
I know.
Okay, we're going to have to shut you down. Who's your next one?
Do some research on him, though. He's really good.
Manly P. Hall.
What's your favorite book from
Secret
P. Hall?
Teachings.
Oh, you know, you've heard the name.
No.
Either have I.
No. I wrote the name down.
So when I was master, a brother that...
Sorry, I didn't mean
he was...
I love it.
He used to be chaplain at Pike before Gillard. He did a Hebrew prayer before Gillard at Pike.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehekionu v'kiyamonu v'higionu lazman hazeh.
So let me just tell you this.
Nailed it.
We've talked about it before on the podcast with Sheldon. So Mike Ward and I, we were young officers, and Gillard had just came on the line, and he would do Hebrew prayers, but not all the time. So we would bet. So before Lodge would start, I'd say, Mike, I'll bet you $5 that he does this or he does that. That was our deal. And so we were kind of going back and forth. So I went to Gillard and I said, Gillard, here's the thing. I'm trying to fleece Ward and hustle him. So wherever Ward would go, just so you know, Ward knows, I totally hustled Ward for about 5 years of gambling. Because of some.
That's fantastic.
Do you remember? You were.
He didn't do it all the time.
Right. It wasn't. So later, it was all the time.
I saw it every time.
Yeah.
But then I got to. So Ward would be like, "Well, he's not going to do it again."
And sometimes he would do just the Hebrew and not the translation.
Right.
Other times he would do the Hebrew and the translation.
But he would walk away when Masons were made Master Masons. He would walk away from his spot and go and touch them.
Yeah.
So, and this is why you're a Master Mason.
My dad loved
You know,
that
it's
part.
little things that I appreciate.
My dad loved it.
Yeah.
So we talked about this with Sheldon on the podcast of this. We would all have our heads down for prayer, and you would always look for new guys in the lodge, because when the Hebrew went, you'd open your eyes and look to see if they picked up on it, because you're like, yep, it worked. So
John Gracie being chaplain this year, he did the Hebrew.
he did?
He did.
Was it good?
It was.
So-
Not as good as what you just did, though.
But John's a pretty astute dude.
Yeah.
He is
Pretty
very
astute dude.
Yeah.
Okay, so Manly P. Hall, we're going back to you. Who are you throwing in? We've got two solids, but we're
So
I can't believe you didn't give me Ben Franklin, folks. That's a solid 3. Jump on the comment. He's a solid 3.
point of
Solid 3 out of
clarification.
10.
Point of clarification. I did give him Benjamin Franklin, but I put all the founding fathers as one head.
He did. He screwed it all up
One
because,
head
and he
of
was
the
right
Mount
with
Rushmore.
that. He was right with that, and it's annoying because he was very right with that. So who's your next one to introduce?
It's hard being right all the time.
Or wrong half the time.
So, question. I'd like a little clarification question. Since we are talking about Mount Rushmore being an American
Masonic Mount Rushmore.
Masonic Mount Rushmore, is it only American Masons?
So I introduced non-Americans. So
Okay, very good.
Okay.
So I would, in the same vein of my multi-headed founding father group, I would like to put Mozart and Voltaire into the mix. The reason that I say this is because it highlights, and while we don't know specifically what they did to raise the craft back in the 1600s and 1700s, we don't know exactly, what their membership protocol was like and what their recruiting, or well, not recruiting, but how they were making Masons. But what we do know is that they were members of our fraternity, and they were men that had different ideas in a very crazy time. So I think that the reason, whether or not they did a lot to grow the craft in their physical lives, in their lodges, I think what they have done for the craft after their death has been incredibly influential. And it shows the kind of the beauty of our fraternity.
Do you think most people in the world know Mozart was a Mason?
I think that 99% of the world probably does not.
He wrote music for Masonry, though.
I understand that. And that's fair. Yeah. Do you think that more people know that Benjamin Franklin was a Mason than Mozart? Yes. Okay, so now to your next one. I like Mozart. Mozart's good. So, do you have another one to throw?
Tricked me there.
I did. I walked you into this.
Albert Mackey.
Albert Mackey.
Oh,
who was alive around the same time as Albert Pike.
He's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's tough to say no to. Yikes!
I'm thinking polarizing. So if you think of our current Mount Rushmore now, do you guys know who's on the Mount Rushmore right now? All of them? Yeah, I know there's a Mason on it. Yes.
Right. There's two.
Right. You're talking about Jefferson.
And Washington's on it, right?
Roosevelt.
We're talking about Roosevelt and Washington. Right?
Yeah. AKA Roosevelt.
So
do we keep them on there?
And both Roosevelts were Masons.
So, but here's the interesting thing about Roosevelt. None of us have brought them up to be on the Masonic Mount Rushmore. Think that.
Just didn't have me on.
No, think that through. So I know he would have done
did
that.
either of those guys serve as Grand Master at the same time that they were president?
But you guys shot
leader of the free world.
No, Truman's solid. Truman's solid.
Post World War II
why did you
nuclear world.
Truman's solid. Why did you shut Ben Franklin down, who was a past Grand Master of Pennsylvania, and he's on the American denomination of bills. So he's a tough one to take off. I'll give you Truman. If you give me Franklin, I give you Truman. Collins' vote doesn't matter. We've got our 4.
No, I can't do it. I can't.
You can't give me Franklin?
No, man.
After the other people that you threw up?
No,
you think Mackey above Franklin?
I'm not. Well, first of all, Mackey is
it's political.
Mackey is a completely different time, and gave a completely different skill set to the craft.
What did Mackey invent?
Well, first of all, Mackey invented
electricity.
Volume,
not encyclopedia.
Not
electricity.
A volume of Masonic books that a past master of Albert Pike and somebody that may or may not have been a part of this podcast at the time that this is airing, but Worshipful Roberts, very influential Freemason in my life,
great guy,
gave me a volume of Mackey's encyclopedia.
Now Mackey has just made it. Okay, hold on.
So when we talk about,
are you going to put Mackey on?
I mean Mackey.
Are you putting Mackey on?
I'm a talker, and if I can explain it.
No. Are you putting them on?
Yeah, I'm putting them on.
So we got Washington, Prince Hall, Mackey. You mean to tell me Benjamin Franklin doesn't make it when Mackey's up there?
Well, by your standards, in my standards, I put Franklin, Washington.
I like how you package
Revere.
it.
They're
I like
one
what you
and
did.
The same. All those guys put the same amount on the line.
Do you think the world would have been better if Mackey wasn't born, or if Ben Franklin wasn't born?
Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin at the time had 45 other Freemasons surrounding him that would have done the exact same thing.
Solid.
Yeah.
So, folks, we can agree on 3. We've got Washington, right?
Yeah.
We've got Prince Hall. We got Mackey. I would have given you Truman if you would have given me Franklin. So I can't give you Truman, but listen, Truman's solid. Truman
deserves to be on there.
Truman, he gets a solid argument of President and Grand Master. I didn't know that. I don't know if it's true. Across the bottom, we'll have researched it. And I know somewhere in the world, Russ is hitting his head because he's a history guy. And you know what? I don't care about history. I care about making money. So that's a whole nother thing. So I digress. And did you have another person to bring up?
I did not.
Did you have another person to bring up? I know you did. So say it.
All right. So what I want to talk about is...
This is going to be trash. I can feel it.
I want to talk about people that were influential. Famous or infamous in Freemasonry.
Don't you bring up Benedict Arnold.
I'm not going to bring up Benedict Arnold. I'm certainly not going to bring up Benedict
never
Arnold.
make it.
What I am going to bring up is a specific affair, namely
the Morgan affair.
The Morgan affair. So the reason that I want to bring this up.
Okay, you went a different direction.
Did not see that coming.
Yeah,
no,
you did.
I like it. Keep going. I like where your head's at.
So
because he
when we
downfall of Masonry, but keep going.
When we talk about influential Masons in our lifetime, we didn't specify whether they were influential in a good way.
No.
Influential in a
Put
bad
them
way.
in a rock, it would have to be a good way.
No, but hold on. Good and bad is relative, right? But I like where you're going on this. I like where you
don't see Jimmy Carter on Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, but what grown man likes jelly beans? Do you like jelly beans?
That was Reagan.
Do you like... he's peanuts, right? So...
Tear that wall down. Anyways, so for those of you who don't know what the Morgan affair is,
pay attention to the two previous episodes that you've seen.
Oh, did we talk about it?
Episode 13 was the Morgan affair, and then we did a follow-up after that to the Morgan affair where we had some new information. So you haven't seen them. You haven't seen them all. One's about... Yes, you haven't seen them all. It's interesting, but we believe that Masons didn't kill Morgan. We believe it may have been his wife.
Oh,
if you haven't seen the other one, it's because she after they were married, she went to marry Joseph Smith. You know that name? The founder of Mormonism, and he mysteriously died after being pulled from a jail and killed.
So the reason that
you're reaching a little bit.
I'm reaching, but no, it happened, but it's still strange.
Yeah.
I mean, we definitely killed him, in my opinion.
You're with that? You think the Masons had something to do with it?
No, we took them to Turkey.
Yeah.
No,
we took them to Turkey.
Yeah,
so go back to
out of the
episode 13, which will lead you to the next episode. I like where your head's at on this.
So
you think we killed him, man?
So the reason that I put him up, here, is not necessarily to highlight what he did or what he threatened.
But people still talk about it today,
and it's not even to highlight the fact that there is mystery around his death. But the reason that I bring it up is because of the outrage post-Morgan affair, the anti-Masonic political party that came out of that, and we are still here. We are still here after this, nationwide, international hysteria of what Freemasons are. We're Illuminati. We're trying to take over the world. When in my home lodge and in Albert Pike, we can't even figure out what flavor of pie to serve after lodge.
The world was better when we were in control, though. Truman.
This is true. This is true. He didn't think twice. Well, he did think twice.
That's a solid argument. So we're agreeing. You don't have to agree because we've already got 3 chiseled out already. So we've got Washington, we have Prince Hall, we have
Truman.
Mackey. We didn't get Truman in there. I would have given you Truman if you'd have given me Franklin. You know what? I'm going to give you Truman. Would you give him Truman? It's solid.
It is a solid one.
Okay, so
if we can come up with another Mackey. That was not a political figure because I feel like it's getting too political. But up on the Mount Rushmore.
But they represented Masonry. So let's reorder it. Franklin. I'm sorry.
We weren't doing
George Washington.
You lost that one.
George Washington. I lost that one. George Washington, Prince Hall, Truman, Mackey. Mackey's in the 4. He's in the shadow. He's facing towards South Dakota because he's not nearly as important as the other 3. Can we agree on these 4? Can we be proud of what we paid and had chiseled?
I would like to ask a question if anybody has any other people.
I have no other people.
I didn't have anybody else. Did you have one more?
No.
He didn't have, I thought he had another one. So that's all we have. If you have other people that should be on, put in the comments. Let us know, where did we do great? Where did we do wrong? Brothers, cheers. Thank you for joining the Old Fashion Masonic Podcast.
Sorry,
Cheers,
George
guys.
Washington.